Hi everyone, I'm Dylan Haswell from Trident, and welcome to another Trident Talks, another in the mini-series where we discuss security and AI. Today I am joined by Joe Aurilia from Cyware. He is the Vice President of Operations, Senior Vice President indeed of Operations, and welcome. How you doing?
I'm doing great, Dylan. Great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining. Thank you so much. So, really excited to have this chat today. There's lots to go through. I'm aware you've got a lot of information to give as well, so let's just jump straight into it. But I do want to start, as usual, with just a little bit more about you, your journey into Cyware, and kind of just what you do there.
Yeah, absolutely. So I am a technologist at heart, always been very technical. Used to work for AT&T and IBM, building a lot of their large-scale enterprise systems, but also love to build and scale companies, which is where I find myself here today. So great being able to see a company start up, scale it from there, grow, accomplish its goals. That kind of brought me into the Cyware ecosystem back in 2019, with the mandate of kind of seeing us grow, as fast and as flexible as possible. So been here for about almost 6 years at this point. Been able to grow to about 7 countries with individuals, scaling our sales teams, our operational teams, all of our, business-facing teams, and it's been a great experience from that point of view. For me, really, strong operator, love to grow, scale, put people together, really kind of that combination of people, process, and technology, and seeing those company goals be fulfilled.
Yeah, amazing. And I know that you've done a lot of scaling up at Cyware, and there's some super exciting things that have happened, but also going forwards are happening. So yeah, maybe that's time for another chat. But let's talk about security and AI on this one. So I think it's important to talk about the human element behind sort of growth within the age of AI. Do you believe that AI is empowering people rather than replacing them, as some of the fear mongering would have people believe?
Yeah, it's definitely a popular topic. We are simply providing additional technology that helps us in our lives, in our work, in our relationships. It's just doing a lot more than what might have been the generation before that. So when you look at it from that point of view, it's assisting us. If used properly, it's getting you that leg up so you can do something faster and spend more time on those elements that really require that, individualistic human expertise, where you can sort of, offload the parts that can be automated, that can be kind of machine driven, and help you get to an answer quicker.
Yeah, absolutely. So when you're looking at Cyware then, and the growth that you've had within Cyware, how have you implemented sort of the AI behind it and the security behind it to empower those doing the job?
Yeah, security is a really important part. I mean, obviously, one being a cybersecurity company, two, just security in general. AI does have risks, right? As any new technology does. You want to make sure that you're doing it in a responsible manner, right? So responsible AI. How does that meet with your data privacy, with your compliance, with your other mandates to ensure that it kind of fits into the organization? How are you worrying about and managing the training and the enablement of your teams? Not just throwing them a tool, but saying, look, this is how you use a tool. This is what you can add into the tool. This is, what you can do with the output. This is what you can do with client data. It's very important to have those conversations ahead of time, because in this case, it is incredibly powerful, but also it's also faster to make a mistake. So you want to make sure that people know what to do, and then they know how to use it to the best of their professional advantage, so that the team can be more successful. So for us, we look at tools in a very strong procurement sense. How can the tool help us move forward? How long will it last? How does it move us ahead today? And what does it modify in our workload? How does it not just add on another tool, but does it replace something? Does it modify something? Does it bring us forward? It has to answer those questions in order to be implemented.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think what you're saying there is AI isn't something that should necessarily be feared, because there is fear behind AI and that the words of AI, but sort of thoughtful implementation is as important as the tech itself to protect the people, both from a security aspect and the fear they have around it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, everyone fears things that are new, right? It's a kind of a common human emotion. I think what happens here is that there are certain instances where AI can automate a large percentage of someone's work, but in most cases, it's being used to focus on what's important. So if you're working, let's say, a presentation for a conference or an investor meeting, whatever it happens to be, maybe you used to spend, 4 hours making it look, pretty with the information. Maybe you spend 2 hours kind of going through it and checking the data. What if we reverse that? What if you spend more time looking at the data, looking at that strategic information about what you're going to be conversing with, and really focusing on how you manage that business, and less on putting the stuff on the slides, thinking of certain language. You're really focusing on those human elements. So in that way, the AI is really assisting you in being better at your job, better at your profession, better at your company goals, and kind of getting to an answer quicker. So if we think about it from that viewpoint, it's really no different than, we now send email instead of using a fax. We now use Salesforce instead of using a Rolodex. We're just using a better tool to get that part of the job done faster. So the part that really requires our distinctive human abilities can be used in more of a full force, as opposed to rushing at the end when you run out of time.
Yeah, and you can obviously speed up things, and take away the element of the stuff that people don't need to do in their job as much, and they can focus on things that are more important. From a security aspect, how do you see that changing the not the world, because that's a bit grandiose, but how do you see it changing the industry in terms of offering more layers of protection, because people are able to concentrate on on things that matter rather than the menial jobs?
Yeah, I think that matter part is very key. In any level of an organization, there's so much data coming at you. How does a human really know what matters? Out of the 500 emails you get a day, what's important? Out of the millions of security alerts, what's important? Using AI and other technologies like that to be able to kind of cut through the noise will allow you to spend that time focusing on the parts that AI can't automate, that require that human intervention to check out, to qualify, to have a conversation, which means you're going to spend more time on the things that could be high risk and less time on the things that can be automated that are low risk. So instead of missing those things today, you'll now physically be focused on them because you have the time. It's not that you're dropping the other items. You can automate the ones that you just know how to do really well, and we can kind of use AI to do that. But really focus on those things that maybe you didn't have enough time for in the past. And that way, hopefully, being more secure because you're putting the attention where really attention is truly desired.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think the one thing I've taken from this conversation more than anything else in terms of the fear part is, it, whilst you're saying AI doesn't need to be feared, upskilling a job alongside AI will create more opportunity to be productive for the human behind it, if that makes sense. So ultimately, having AI alongside the human allows the human part of it to be a lot more productive and therefore upskill quicker, and therefore there could be creating more opportunities because of AI rather than in place of it.
Absolutely. If you imagine an individual today, that base knowledge that's there, the ability to answer those questions didn't exist, a few years ago. By using that, they can all get a leg up. They can move from one position to another. They can kind of spread their wings and do things that maybe weren't possible beforehand because they have the ability to ramp up that education super quickly, or use it as a learning aid while learning, to be able to answer those questions more swiftly. So just imagine someone's in a meeting, they don't know the content, they could literally get the answer in the middle of the meeting. For a client, for an internal meeting, they can have that knowledge right there to answer, and that's way past a regular searching online, because you're getting context, you're getting understanding, you're manipulating data. There's no more of this, hey, let's take it back and get an answer, we'll come back next week with a meeting. No, we can just solve it right here. Let's move on with the conversation. Let's focus on what's important. I think if you use it in that way and you have that as this constant tool in your tool belt to understand the right points to implement it, everyone can become more productive. They can upskill themselves and kind of help the organization, and as well their own professional careers move to a different plane.
Yeah, absolutely. So looking at it from a Cyware point of view, I guess you believe then that your clients, your customers, through you guys using AI from a security point of view, will have a much better service from you guys, if because you're able to concentrate on the things that matter most from when you're looking at securing.
Yeah, I think in general, for cybersecurity, for all companies, when you're looking at how do you deliver value to a client, how do you ensure that they're getting the maximal impact from your particular software or services, you really want to use all the technology available to answer that goal for them. AI being one of those tools in that toolbox, if you can allow them to get to the answer faster, if you allow them to feel more secure, to have better data, to get better results, that impact is greater at the end of the day.
Yeah, absolutely. And then at the end of it, everybody feels better for it, I guess, because they've been upskilled, they're more secure. You guys are able to, answer questions, as you said, and get to the point quicker. And yeah, it's hopefully, taking away that fear from people and being able to use it in a way that ultimately works alongside the human behind it.
Absolutely. If you think about, your average day, what if we could take those productivity apps, make them faster for you, right? Focusing on managing your projects, not tweaking them in your project management tool. If you could focus on communicating with the employee as opposed to covering off the email, remove all that busy work and focus on the parts that only you could do as a human, and you'll be able to do those parts even better, as well as, improving your professional and company at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, look, it's been really, really great talking to you today, Joe. I'm really keen to see exactly what the future holds with security and AI, but also what we've discussed today, taking away some of the fear and in the human element behind it. Yeah, I've no doubt that you guys will be going from strength to strength in implementing all those ideas you've just been discussing. So thank you so much for joining me today. On to the next one.
Thanks, Dylan.